Welcome to Bible Theory, homie.
Taking the church to the streets, homie.
Say what?
Hey, yo, what's going on, my Bible theorist? What's going on, all mi gente? Reform Latinos, where you at? Woo, 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 woo. Hey, yo, let me see if I can get this right. This one is Mexican American. I just downloaded this.
Mexican Americans are named Chata and Chela and Chema and have a son-in-law named Jeff.
They have a son-in-law named Jeff. Hey, yo, shouts out to the homie Jeff. Hashtag outsiders, the homie Vince. Where you at? Ooh, I see you way out there, homie. Hey, real quick, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe down below. And I'm on Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, so go ahead and help a homie out. Buy me a coffee, buy me I have t-shirts. Go ahead, follow the link below, and go ahead and copy some t-shirts. I got some coffee mugs, I got some sweaters, hoodies, whatever. Go ahead and support a small ministry like this. I'll be forever blessed. Thank you so much. All right, so with this one, I'm not gonna take too long, and it's getting crazy out here. Not only on these YouTube streets, but on these seminary streets, on these church streets. It's nice and dandy to talk about what is the church. It's very important. You need to have your ecclesiology down, right? And I know there's a lot of ecclesiologies out there. The Methodist ecclesiology, the Episcopalian ecclesiology, and the Baptist ecclesiology, and the Presbyterian ecclesiology. I prefer the Reformed Presbyterian ecclesiology. That's my bias. I'm letting you know straight up. I'm a Presbyterian. Woo woo. Let me know down below if you Presby, homie. Hey, check it out. So right now, I'm going to do my best in uncovering the truth about pastors and seminary buffs. If they are useful idiots. Are they useful idiots? Useful idiots, I would say comes from a communist usage of the word. And useful idiots, Stalin and Lenin, I know there's a debate of who used it first, but the point is that I think Lenin, during his revolution in Russia, actually used the term, and he said that the populace, there's a certain populace that are useful idiots, that they're helpful for the cause, even though they don't know they're contributing to the cause. And the same question I have for seminary professors and church leaders. Are they contributing to the cause? Are they useful idiots? Are they on the wrong side of history? Valid questions. I don't think I'm going to go ahead and uncover every single angle, but I'm going to try to give you at least a few red flags that you could take home today. And let me go ahead and use my left arm here. So, how do you know if your pastor or seminary buff is a crazy liberal? I use the liberal terminology as in not the conservative definition of having an open enterprise, tolerant enterprise. I am using liberal in a way that, let me see, I found an interesting letter. It's called Liberalism is a Sin by Dr. Don Felix Sarda and Salvini. He's from Spain. Anyways, let me read a couple quotes from him. And this is what I mean. It's a cultural infection. We see it. We know about it. But let me give you a little idea of this liberalism right here. Sorry, I got these new earphones. All right. And I quote, this is from chapter 26. And I quote, it says, the theater, literature, public and private morals are all saturated with obscenity and impurity. The result is inevitable. A corrupt generation necessarily begets a revolutionary generation. Liberalism is the program of naturalism. Free thought begets free morals or immorality. Restraint is thrown off and a free rein given to the passions. Whoever thinks what he pleases will do what he pleases. Liberalism in the intellectual order is licensed, is licensed in the intellectual order is licensed in the moral order. Disorder in the intellect begets disorder in the heart, and vice versa. Thus, liberalism propagates immorality, and immorality, liberalism. End quote. Wow. Let me read another quote real quick. Chapter 3, he said, liberalism, and I quote, is therefore the radical and universal denial of all divine truths and Christian dogma, the primal type of all heresy, and the supreme rebellion against the authority of God and his church. As with Lucifer, is its maximum is, I will not serve. End quote. That's a quote of chapter 3 right there. So, liberalism. How do you know if your pastor is a crazy liberal? How do you know if your best friend who's going to a seminary is a crazy liberal? Or how do you know if your professor, let's just say you're going to seminary, how do you know if your professor is a crazy liberal? He might read the Bible, so you might be like, I don't know if my pastor is a liberal because he reads the Bible. He carries a big, thick Bible. Uh-oh, I got a homie. Uh-oh. All right, let's see if I can get this. Orale, man, what's up?
What's going on?
Yo, man, what's going on, bro?
Man, I haven't done this in a while.
Bro, I'm just giving introductions. Real quick, why don't you give an introduction of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Daniel Ramos. I try to get a cool name like the Chicano Knox, and I came up with the Irish Puerto Rican.
Oh man, I love Irish, dude. Have you ever seen Ireland, like on a documentary or anything like that?
Nah, man, just only in movies.
Okay, the Boondock Saints. What are your favorite Irish movies that are like a must see? Classics Irish movies.
Dude, that you put me on the spot now. I can't even like think of one right now.
Don't say Leprechaun. That's not an Irish movie.
No, you know what? I'll come back to that.
Okay,
one.
Okay, I'll give you a pass. All right, you can phone a friend later, right?
Yeah. If somebody wants to help me out in the chat, like throw out some movies there, and I'll let you know. But
put in the comments down below what are your favorite Irish movies, and don't be googling them and looking them up and asking Alexa. Oh wait, I have an Alexa. Don't be asking. Don't be cheating. Comment below. Let me know what are your favorite Irish movies. All right. So real quick, bro, I was covering the topic of how do you know if your seminary buff friends or your pastors are actually liberals? What Lenin and Stalin would say is that they got to power not by themselves, but by a collaboration, a community of people who had no idea that they were actually helping the communists come to power. You know what I mean? And a lot of them were like church-going folks of the Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox and some like Eastern Orthodox Lutheran type people. And they were hardworking people. They crossed their T's, they dotted their I's. They were smart. And Lenin was like, these are useful idiots because they actually helped me get here. And it's like, is it possible that are there any useful idiots in the church? And when I mean by church, I mean like here in the United States in our context, from LA to New York, from New York to Miami to I don't know, Chicago and Portland, Seattle, everywhere in the United States, man. Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Hey, let's get that clear. At least we're not a state, clear, but we're a territory. Okay,
it's a territory, but woo.
Yo.
You guys
I
are good
got-
in baseball. I say that.
I don't know if you can hear this one. Hey, bro, give me like I'll be back. My daughter just woke up and I need to go take
All
care
right,
of her.
man.
But I like this question. I'll be back for this one. Give me a second, quick
All
second.
right, bro. All right. Okay. While he's gone taking care of business, the question still stands. How do you know? Let me know in the comments below, what are some of the red flags that would give away your pastor, seminary friend, seminary professor, your favorite article, reform article? Like, how do you know these people who you trust, people that you might like, people, these blogs and subscriptions that you pay for, whatever, right? How do you know if they're not useful idiots? How do you know they're not contributing to the dark side, to the empire, building up the emperor? How do you know they're not doing that? Fair question. Fair question. I mean, in this video, we mean no disrespect. We mean nothing but love and fruitful engagement in these questions. So we are coming from a very honest position that is very raw, okay? That is very honest and open and is an intelligent question that if you step into a real life situation, you go to the carne asada, you go to like a local pub, a brewery, a cigar lounge, you go to real life situations outside of the seminary halls, outside of the libraries, the bookstores, you go into the real world, bro. Like, people, you will encounter this question. How do you know the seminaries and these professors and your pastor, your youth pastor, whatever, your coffee shop pastor, your parking lot pastor, whatever, are actually contributing to the right cause? Well, I'm gonna give you some red flags. All right. So the first red flag that I could think about is pretty obvious. How do you know if your pastor or seminary buff are actually contributing to the wrong cause, or if they're useful idiots like Stalin and Lenin said? Is if your pastor or seminary buff, if they are okay with murdering babies, if they are okay with the idea, with the premise of, like, you know what, I'm not gonna let my daughter do that, but like, if society wants to go down that route and endorse it, federally fund it, take it out of my paychecks from the state, however you want to wire the money to fund it, to make it corporate, federalized, whatever, if they're okay with that, I would say that that pastor, that seminary buff, that professor is a useful idiot. Okay. I know this is a hard situation. This is a hard pill to swallow, but it is a pill, people. And please take the red pill. Do not take the blue pill. All right. So that's how you know if your pastor is actually a useful idiot. If he's out there just like, oh, I'm just going to go out there and vote for veterans. I admire veterans. I support my veterans. But yo, if you're going to vote for somebody that supports veterans, but at the same time, they are funding organizations that kill babies, I would say that killing babies is actually way more important than funding the veterans. They're actually sucking you in by using the veterans to as a hook to get you in order to fund that organization of killing babies. All right, Danny, you back. See you. All right, Danny, we were actually giving out the first red flag, bro, of pastors and seminary professors who are okay with abortion. They're okay with murdering babies. They're okay with destroying lives. They're okay. I don't think he can see me. Danny. Okay, he dropped off. Technical difficulties. So anyways, that's the red flag. If you have not had this conversation with your pastor, with your seminary friend, I encourage you to go ahead and just ask them. It's hard to guess if you don't ask, right? And we need to know the facts of the situation. I would encourage
There you go.
Christian people to ask their seminaries and their seminary professors, hey, seminary professor, are you okay with murdering babies on a wide scale? Like, doesn't that bother you? And if they say, if they give you like justifications for it, that's how you know, like, I think this guy might be a useful idiot unintentionally. Hey, Danny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give out red flags for people so they could be like, whoa, maybe my pastor is a useful idiot, even though he means well, he talks well, he looks well, dressed well, smells well, Calvin Klein, John Calvin cologne. That's fine. Here's a red flag. The first one I thought about. Your professor in seminary, your seminary buff, or your pastor is okay with abortions any level. You're like, yeah, it's all right. What are your thoughts about that? Should pastors and professors be okay with abortions on any level?
No, man, they shouldn't be okay with abortion at any level. I think that's a full contradiction of biblical truth, biblical principles, and what's expect of a Bible believing Christian, you know. So yeah, I think that's a that's a good question to ask, you know, on people just to see where they stand and why they stand there.
Why do you think Christians stand there? Like, what are some of your thoughts, theories of what goes in their mind?
Yeah, man, I think I think it's one, lack of understanding the scriptures, and two, they're so succumb into the culture that the culture dictates how they think, how they live, how they project themselves, and they're actually counter biblical culture instead of being counter culture against the the culture, you know, by biblical standards.
So if your professor is saying, you know what, there should be some kind that's not up to me. Why don't you go ask a biologist?
Then the professor should not be teaching the Bible, man. Should not be teaching.
Yo, close the Bible, bud.
Yeah, should not be teaching aspiring ministers how to be faithful ministers of the gospel, man.
What if a pastor says, I'm not a woman, I'm not qualified to answer that question because I never experienced birth, so I have no comment? What if they say that?
A professor or a pastor?
A pastor. What if you go up to a pastor?
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a professor or a pastor, right? That's the same question, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to like think like a liberal here and throw it at you, man. Like,
yeah. If it's either a professor or a pastor, I'm not a woman, you know, and I can't relate or whatever, man. The same thing. Like, then you have no business teaching the word of God. You have no business if it's a pastor teaching the word of God, or if it's a professor teaching aspiring ministers how to be ministers, because the word of God is clear. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You know, the life, the sanctity of life. It's there. So we cannot go around it with arguments of like, I'm not a woman. I know. It's a human life, right? It's a human life inside of a pregnant woman. Let's get that clear too. Pregnant woman, not a pregnant person. A pregnant woman. You know?
Pregnant women, y'all use the right vocab.
Yeah. So there's no going around it, man. You know, there's no
Yo, what's up, Pastor E?
There's no loophole. El pastor, Edwin
El pastor is in the building. We have a pastor watching us, bro.
Yeah. Edwin, Pastor Edwin, if you wanted to even, chime in through the chat, go ahead, man. We'll read it.
Yeah. Man. We're trying to give out red flags for people, Pastor E, for seminary buffs or for pastors. Like, we're trying to help people identify them, some red flags, maybe, in their statements and their white papers, perhaps. Is it okay for seminary professors to be what if your seminary professors is sad over the overturning of Roe v. Wade? What if their attitude is, oh man, I'm sad. And you're like, man, why are you sad? They overturned Roe v. Wade, man. That is bad. That is tyranny. You'd be like, what are your reactions to that kind of attitude?
Here's my like come on, man. Like honestly, like that shows where your stands, that shows where your convictions are. That shows, how serious you take the word of God. And man, that shows that you put yourself higher to God's standards, and what God desires for us, right? As so that's again, you have no business, man. You have no business to being a sound biblical. Well, you're not a sound biblical teacher. If you think that, man. Come on.
Yeah, if you're a pastor or a theologian that's sad over the overturning of Roe v. Wade, you may need to resign.
Definitely. I mean, it depends on what kind of seminary you are, right? Because if you're in the right seminary that thinks like that too, then that's why you have a job, right?
That's why you have a job. Oh, dang. Okay, here's another red flag. This one is a big category, a big discussion. Maybe we could just touch on it, a touch and go kind of thing. What if the pastors are like, you know what? Jesus is king. He is the ruler and the head of the church, and they give you all the right buzzwords, right? And you're like, okay, you sound smart, you sound biblical and sound, and then all of a sudden it's like, but he's not really the ruler of in the real world, and we should the kingdom of God is not of this world. We should not seek this world, and we should Jesus in politics and Jesus in this world. There seems to be like a dichotomy and some kind of hard line division, intentionally, unintentionally. So what if your seminary professor is giving you all the right buzzwords, using all the right scriptures, but then again you walk away like, man, Jesus is not the king of the world actually, because he's in the heavens, and there's this dichotomy there. What do you say to professors who are teaching the masses like that?
I would say to them, read Psalm 110.
What does Psalms 110 say?
I got you. Psalm 110. Right. The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. The Lord will stretch forth your strong scepter from Zion, saying, rule in the midst of your enemies. This is a messianic psalm, right? This is referring about God the Father, telling God the Son, sit at my right hand. The right hand is a position of power, a position of rule. Yeah. And Jesus in the ascension, he is ruling. He is ruling now, right? Not only in the heavens, but over the whole earth. Yep. So if he's ruling now over the whole earth, right? Until God the Father put all his enemies under his footstool, there is no dividing the kingdom of God into two kingdoms. One symbolic kingdom and a real kingdom that is about to come. The kingdom is it's already here, right? It was inaugurated with the coming of the Son, and it's going to be consummated with the coming of the Son again. So Jesus is actively reigning not only over the church but over everyone, man. So as a post-mill, how will you answer that question?
Well, I'm not an expert in it, in post-mill, or this, but I am seeing it. If it smells like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck. I don't care what people say. For me, that's how I think. It's like, That's the way I load my guns. It's like boom, lock and load it. You don't need to get crazy with it. Okay. Yeah, it's very easy for me, and that's how I process things. And I can see how they are trying to interpret it. And let me see. They get, they use catechisms and confessions to their advantage. And you know who else use advantages? Enemies of war. Enemies of war use the same thing. High places could destroy enemies.
Yeah.
You know what Obi-Wan Kenobi said to Anakin?
It's
In
over,
episode
Anakin.
3.
I
In
have
episode
the high
3.
ground.
In episode 3, I have the high ground, Anakin. It's over. I feel that these theologians are screaming at us like if they're Obi-Wan
Yeah.
Kenobi with the high ground.
Yeah.
And I'm
What
like,
do you-
dude,
what do you do? What do you do with the Great Commission then? In like Matthew 28, verse 18, right? All authority in heaven. If it was just that, right? If you leave it there, okay, I can see the argument. If you just leave it there,
okay.
all authority in heaven. Let's say it says it like that, right? All authority in heaven has been given to me. Go therefore. But it doesn't say that, right?
Yeah.
It says all authority in heaven and on earth. All authority in heaven.
Yeah, but they divide the earth. And then they use the that's what I'm saying. They use the catechism to get on a higher plane than that thought. They use things like in Heidelberg Catechism question number 49. By the way, let me give a disclosure. I love the Heidelberg, the three forms of unity. It's awesome. But this is what I mean by the sneakiness of the high ground game they want to play. Let's pay close attention, bro. Okay. It's slippery like a jellyfish. Watch this. Question 49. Of what advantage to us is Christ's ascension into heaven? Here's the answer. This is tricky. First, he is our advocate in the presence of his Father in heaven. Secondly, that we have our flesh in heaven as a sure that we have our flesh in heaven as a sure pledge that he, as the head, will also take up to himself us, his members. Thirdly, he sends us his spirit as an earnest by whose power we seek the things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God the Father. Here's the thing, and not things on earth. So the hermeneutic is, yes, Jesus ascended. We believe in the ascension. Radical implications. I get it. But let's just put that aside for a second. The hermeneutic is, if Jesus is in heaven, the ascension, yes, go, but don't seek the things on earth. The purpose of the church is to seek the things that are in heaven and not on earth. So the hermeneutic is definitely like focusing on like the interpretation of the point of the ascension, the spiritualization of the ascension and the implications of our mental state, how we view things. I don't know, like this, like they focus on that last sentence. Don't seek the things on the earth. That's the most important part in our Great Commission. And for me, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a dichotomy, like a huge like split. And for the communists, imagine, put yourself in a communist position real quick. You're Stalin and Lenin, and you're taking over every institution, right? And then if your major concern is Christ is ascended, things not on earth, bad, heaven, things in heaven, good. All snaps. I see an AK-47. All snaps. Take my church. Who's the real Christian? Them. That's the real Christian over there. Like that's what happened to the church in Russia when the Stalinists came to power, because they were looking up to their fancy buildings and their artwork and like, man, heaven must be like this painting right here, bro. Oh snaps! An AK-47 is in my face. It's like, yo, you're thinking too much about heaven that you forgot that Stalin took over your country, and now everybody is like screwed. and you're cool with it. You don't care about that. Like, I guess you care about it in a weird way now because it's after the fact. But that's how I see it, bro. It's like they're talking down to us, like if they have the high ground, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. But when you put it in real life applications, it's like there's a huge dichotomy.
Yeah. I agree with you in that. Man, I don't know. I cannot see you at all. The whole thing went dark. But I can listen to you. So
okay, I can see you. So you may want to check your settings on the camera.
Yeah. That's
all right. So I would say, how do you know if your pastor and seminary friends and seminary professors are useful idiots? They may be useful idiots if they're saying stuff like that or things very close to that. Here's another one. Here's another red flag. You know what? Who cares about Christian revivals in church history? There's no revivals in church history. I don't think you heard this. Maybe you have. If you have, let me know. But there's people out there that are saying this type of things, that are anti-revivalists in church history. So they don't like George Whitefield. They don't like people like Jonathan Edwards. And I think it stems from the fact that maybe they're I don't know, full preterists, or maybe they're like hardcore. Like, is it true that a sensationalist, no, not a sensationalist, a cessationalist, a person who doesn't believe in the continual gifts of the Spirit, what's that called again? A cessationalist, a person who doesn't believe in the gifts of the Holy Spirit in the modern day or whatever.
Yeah.
Is this a stem from that kind of thinking that promotes that there's no such thing as revivals anymore? Even the Jonathan Edwards revivals and stuff like that is not valid because have you heard any of that?
Man, I haven't heard anyone that's in that camp saying anything remotely close to that.
Yeah. But anyways, just because I mentioned Jonathan Edwards, a lot of people are going to be like, well, the Calvinists don't believe. Bro, John Calvin sent missionaries to Brazil. Okay. So he was pro revival in Brazil of the New World. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan Edwards was a hardcore. He was probably more Calvinist than Calvin. Okay. And he helped spark the Great Awakening. Okay. Mm-hmm. So for all my anti-Calvinist friends out there, that's FYI.
And George Whitefield, he was a hardcore Calvinist too.
He's a hardcore Calvinist too. Right on. Here's another red flag. Here's another red flag. The church is a loser while on earth. So we lose. Hashtag we lose. I think this ties with more of eschatology. Yeah. Eschatology, the view of the end times. Obviously, there's differences. But there is some radical implications here. And this radical implication here, I think is a radical one. And they might be contributing to the cause of like people like Stalin and Lenin, because they are taking a non-victory approach. They're self-prophesying the destiny of the church. They're calling Jesus, they don't believe Jesus's words of saying, I will build my church. Because I don't know if Jesus's words has the statute of limitations. Do you know if Jesus's words have a statute of limitations on them?
No, man. To be honest with you,
his words are eternal, right?
Yeah.
His words are never ending. They don't have an expiration date, right? Like, is that a hermeneutical? Like, I guess if you're trying to apply that in hermeneutics, I guess there's some words that are done, like some prophecies about the Messiah that are like expired already because Jesus fulfilled them. So I guess that would be a minor correction on that. So I get it. But when Jesus says, I will build my church, that is a promise, and that continues. And when people say, and pastors and good theologians are saying, we lose, the church loses on earth, we suck, the world is better, Satan is better and greater and tougher and has a six-pack, and the church have a beer belly, and the church doesn't know how to swim, and Satan is a Navy SEAL. You know what I mean? The church is not a Tom Brady or a Sammy Sosa. The church is like a junior league. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the kind of thing I hear when I hear that stuff.
Yeah. I hear you. No, yeah. And I'll be honest with you, and I think I've told you this in some of our chats not you directly, but I've said it. I haven't given myself to study a lot of eschatology. So I'll be honest in that regards, right? But but even just hearing and right now where I find myself is, man, I'm studying in between, Amil and post mill, right? Jumping the fence a little bit to the post mill side, but
jump over, bro. The water is warm.
Yeah. Like when I used to be Baptist and now like I'm Presbyterian,
Yeah.
But even when I hear that argument that you're saying, right, as a red flag or as a buff in seminary or a church, yeah, man, it makes the church look it makes the church look like Luke Skywalker.
Like Skywalker without a hat.
Yeah. It makes the church seen as a scrawny kid in the playground,
Yeah, like a scrawny guy.
Yeah. Who like the bully of the playground is always has the higher ground over him.
Now, I do want to caveat something. Actually, I do want to point out a reality, that a truth. Two things can be true at the same time. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is that, yes, the church is not the scrawny guy on earth. The church is not the loser. But at the same time, that doesn't mean the church wins all the times. Like, the church can be more visible and less visible as time continues.
Yeah.
Like in certain parts of time history, in the history of time, and the drama of redemption, you could look back in history and be like, where was the church here? The church looks very dark or missing or gone. And I would say, yeah, that looked very dark and grim for for example, what happened in France, the French Revolution, and they killed many Christians, and a lot of the French Christians, ran away from France. They a lot of people escaped France from that. And I would say that's a dark time in history, and that looks dark. How is the church victorious in that? Well, that could be true. Like, yes,
yeah,
the church doesn't win every single battle. That's very true. Sometimes God judges his church, and he does that in the Old Testament many times in the Old Testament, and he always preserves a remnant. I get it, but yes, it looks like sometimes God just brings the house down, like he destroyed the temple, twice. He flattened out Israel. I don't know if you studied that.
Yeah. No, and it's good to realize, as that even when those things happen, that doesn't diminish God's sovereignty over the church, right?
Right.
Like he is in charge of the church. He'll take care of the church. He'll guard the church. And yeah, like to think that because of stuff like that happens, like God has lost like a little bit of his grip on his people. It's even to diminish God himself, right? So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, man.
Yeah, so the two things could be true at the same time, but to say that the church loses, that the church is a loser and scrawny, I would say that is it's playing into the hands of the Stalin and the people who want to rule the world in an evil way, and therefore in that situation, then yes, the church will lose. Exactly what happened in Germany, exactly what happened in Stalin Russia, because the powerful men became, well, they were wicked. The wicked men became rulers, and they swallow up those churches there, yeah, in those situations, those churches lost. But the reason why we're here today as a whole is because the church has won more than lost.
Mm-hmm.
Another way that you can know if a seminary buff or a pastor is a useful idiot,
That's funny, man.
you just look at who they talk about.
Yeah.
They always talk about something. Just pay attention to their words. You know what I mean? There's always a fascination or some type of romanticism. You know what I mean? And these seminary professors worship other seminary professors to the point of, oh, like they're drooling and they can't stop talking about him. And it's like, bro, I get it. You love this guy, but like, what about, like, you have a religious devotion to that dude, bro? Like, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy. Like we should not worship our heroes of the faith. That's what I learned one time, and sadly, in many conservative seminary circles, we fall trap and we become victims of worshiping our heroes of the faith. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Charles Spurgeon, John Calvin, the founder of the seminary, your seminary, my seminary, the founder of a denomination, whatever. We should not, like, we should look up to people. We should, like, read up on their stuff. That's fine. But, like, what are your thoughts, bro, about seminary professors worshiping other seminary professors?
Yeah. Thankfully, man, I haven't had that experience where I have where I've had a professor who worships another professor.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, speaking from the outside, man, like, obviously, one, it's wrong. Two, at the end of the day, I don't care what I don't care what other professors or other theologians have to say. If what they have to say it doesn't go with accordance with the word of God,
Yeah.
And the professor shouldn't care also. So thankfully, I've gotten serious professors like that, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, and here's the thing: I don't think there's anything wrong with having some sort of admiration for faithful ministers of the gospel, right? Who have come before us or who are living currently within among us, right?
Right.
And that's different from worshiping them, right? Like I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the late R.C. Sproul, right?
Right.
I hold that admiration for RC, and that from that to say of worshiping him, that's different, right? That's that thin line right there. So I don't think there's anything wrong where you can have that healthy admiration, right, and emulate their steps at some level. But yeah, man, I think that if you find a professor, if you find a pastor who is stepping into those shoes, and it sounds like they worship these men, and there's no wrong in these men who they hold in a pedestal. That's a huge red flag, right? Because then these men become their ultimate rule of faith and practice, and not the word of God itself.
That's scary, bro. That could be like a Twilight episode, bro. You wake up, you go to school, and everybody's worshiping people and not Jesus. You're like, what in the world?
And that's what's more scary, right? Like, you can enmascarate like your devotion to Jesus by having a devotion for somebody else. and still say like, yeah, I don't know, yeah, I love Jesus and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you believe.
It's like trying to pretend it's like trying to pretend you're a good chef, and you order some Uber Eats, and then like you invite homies over for the Super Bowl party, and you're like, hey man, check this out, I cooked this lobster, but actually you just got it from like your favorite restaurant and pretend you cooked it.
Yeah. But you know what? If those friends really know him, they would know then that he
They'd
didn't.
be like, bro, you didn't cook this lobster, bro. Get out of town, bro.
Exactly. And that's where we as Bible believing Christians, and I'm assuming what you're trying to do with your audience, right? As right now is to encourage them to you need to ask the tough questions. You need to know these people that you're sitting under or whatnot, right? And ask the tough questions biblically, so that you would not be fooled.
Even if it means going against your favorite teacher at times, to be like, hey, like if you can't call out your favorite teacher, I think that's another red flag. So that's another thing. That might be a cult.
Yeah. And like it's not like you should be looking for faults at every corner, right? I don't think that's what you're saying. It's not like you
right.
but man, like pay attention, right? What did he say that doesn't fit? And if it doesn't fit, don't be afraid to ask the question, right? And if that person doesn't correct himself, then that's a huge red flag.
Oof. All right, another red flag. Hashtag 4-wall church. Our main concern on earth is the liturgy, bro, and nothing else. The most primary important thing on earth is the liturgy and nothing else. I guess this kind of touches that other stuff we were talking about earlier. But how important is liturgy, so we can start off with the positive?
This sounds like a full on interview, man.
just your thoughts, bro. Like what? Yeah. Like how important is liturgy in the church? By the way, like first of all, what is liturgy, bro? Like for someone listening, they'll be like, "What in the world? Lasagna? No, not lasagna. Liturgy."
Yeah. In the Presbyterian Church, at least for us, right, who do liturgy, right? Yeah, it's in simple terms, is the way the order of the service is driven. And the question was how important is it? It's very important, right? If you hold to the, I don't know if you wanted to define this or not, but like if you hold to the regulative principle of worship, then it's very important. Because in our liturgy, we say that we worship in accordance to what God has determined for us to do and how to approach Him in the service. So with that defined, what was the question again?
That's the only thing that matters for us Christians while walking on the face of the earth.
No, man. I would say no. That matters. That's the only thing that matters in the Lord's Day.
Okay.
That's the only thing that matters in the Lord's Day.
Okay.
But we're not called to just stay there, right?
Okay.
Church is not the four walls of a building. The church is the people of God, and the people of God is called to mobilize. To mobilize outside of that building, and to be the church outside of that building to their neighbors, to their families, to their co-workers, every sphere of life, not just on the Lord's Day, right? The importance of the Lord's Day is that we're called to meet, we're called to worship, we're called to rest on God and the Lord's Day. Sorry, can you still see me?
Yeah, I see you.
I can't still see you, so I'm like speaking to a black.
Is Chicago having blackouts right now?
I don't know, man. No, there is a tornado watch.
Okay.
Um,
Wait. Illinois have tornadoes?
yeah, man. Like,
What?
yeah, more
I
like in
didn't
the
know that. I
suburbs.
see. I
Yeah,
learned something every day.
yeah, more like in the suburbs. But we feel in Chicago, we just feel depending what suburbs. Chicago just feels like the high intensity winds.
Okay.
Um,
Well, they do call it the Windy City.
yeah, I
I-
mean that's for many you, you you who like history, you know that it's just more. It's not only because of the winds, right?
yeah.
uh, there's a lot of hot air.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the church is called to be to be the church outside of the Lord's state, right? The Lord's state takes preeminence, obviously, right, for the people of God, but we don't stay there just in the Lord's state. So yeah.
It reminds me when Jesus ascended into heaven and the angel was like, "Why are you guys still here? Like, why are you guys still looking up to the sky, by the way? Like, come on,
Go.
go. Get out of here."
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
So-
here's another one. Christians, if you see this, I encourage you to run. Okay. But let's say they're out there, these seminary buffs, these pastors are actually hating the idea of a Christian society, Christendom. They're hating the idea of a to see Christianity externalized so much so that that is the predominant thing you see everywhere you go, including on your drive to work. And they actually, these Christians actually prefer a tranny nationalism, to use that new language that I just found out today on Twitter. This tranny nationalism, that it's all right if we have a future tranny president, the first tranny SCOTUS, the future tranny governor and tranny pastor or whatever. It's all right, because Christianity needs to be part of the world, not of the world. So we're just along for the ride on the way to heaven. What is your response to those claims and arguments from you, bro?
Dude, when you sent the tranny stuff, I was like, this has to be a joke. Like,
no, it's real, because you know what happened in Nashville, right? Sadly, there was a person who described himself part of that community, and they did something horrible and wicked, and it, all this stuff, and it's like they want power, bro. They want to take over the institutions by force. And let's say they get it. Let's say they break down the walls of the American institutions and they become teachers, they become principals, they become sheriffs and running for presidents and senators and all that stuff, because that's what they want.
Yeah.
Let's say they get there, bro, and they take over.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like, that's what they want, by the way. That's called tranny nationalism, where they're everywhere. The Christian pastor and the Christian seminary professor is actually saying, what does that have to do with the gospel, by the way? Like, who cares if they're tranny people everywhere? Like our main concern is the gospel. We lose the gospel when we actually encounter them in public and trying to oppose that.
Yeah, that's a weak public theology, man. Yeah, that's a weak public theology, and it goes back to was it 2 red flags ago that we were talking about the radical R2K.
Yeah, I think it stems from that. I think the radical R2K, they argue from natural law and like a distinction between the secular and the sacred, and stuff like that. But like, how is that a gospel issue though?
It is. It is because how I just said, like, it's a weak public theology to say that there's no issue with having leaders that a woman who believes is a man and a man who believes is a woman, or think think the worst you can think. I don't know. Like right now, it's a woman.
I'm a dog.
Yeah, exactly.
There's somebody in the government that actually thinks they are a dog.
I didn't even know that. You see, it's like, so like, where is the where's the sanity on that, man? You know, and if the people, the people who we are gonna have ruling us from a government perspective, right?
Yep.
Think like that, and that's their moral worldview. I know that sounds like
Say it 3 times fast.
yeah, right. Say it's gonna sound like it's gonna sound like I'm back in my Pentecostal days. If that's the moral worldview, right? Then let's be honest, man. They don't care a single dot about what people like you and me hold to or believe. In fact, we've seen it. We've seen this right now, right? With what happened in Tennessee, which the goal is to eradicate Christian moral worldview.
Right.
So from how to say that that's not an issue, a gospel issue, and for the church to not be militant in that regards, then it goes back to what we were saying. It shows that the view that these people hold to is that of a weak church, a weak a weak church. Like, I can't even say anything else. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Like,
Yeah, I think that opens the thought more, and I could see myself putting myself in their position. I think they will respond in the sense of saying, "How can we be a weak church if we're the strongest? We have a day that was put to us called the Lord's Day, and it's written in natural law and the natural order that Christians worship on Sunday, and that's the most powerful day of all the universe, where God touches down, whatever." So they go back to this liturgy, this we're the most powerful entity on earth, anyways, because what happens on a Sunday.
Yeah, but that's the problem when you think only. That's the problem when you think only that as America goes the rest of the world, right? And that's the problem with the maybe like just viewing the rest of the world through the American lens. That's not, that view is not sustainable. It's not, because we know for a fact that there is while the Lord's Day, the Sabbath, right? It's a creation ordinance. Well, we know that, and we know that that's true. How do you and we get to freely, for now, here in America, enjoy that privilege of meeting, right, without being questioned, unless you don't count what happened in 2020. That's not the reality for our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world. Their government does not recognize a day like that. So what do they have to do? They have to hide, and in order to be faithful to meeting in the Lord's Day, or whatever day, right? they because of their being persecuted or whatnot. So I guess that's
they're being persecuted because they're the real church, bro. They're losing, they're suffering. That's like the holiest position in the whole world, bro. That's the second argument they'll go. What about that?
Yeah.
What about that?
And I'll say, Jesse, go ahead. Tag, come on, man. WrestleMania. Come in.
You want me to wrestle him?
It's
Nacho
like
Libre?
This is Nacho. I was gonna say Nacho Libre moment right now.
I can't wrestle him.
And you go. I don't believe in God. I only believe in science.
I only believe in science. Why, you have not been baptized? Man. So I think of a private Christian society in that worldview, coming from those professors and pastors who are okay in a tranny nationalism, and they hate the idea of Jesus being actual king of the whole universe. Last time I checked, Jesus is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords in all 50 states, in every single country, in every single ocean and continent and planet, and all this stuff, okay? Including asteroids. Jesus is the Lord of all in physical time and space and history, not just in your head, not
Yeah.
just in heaven. That has spiritual implications. I understand, but those spiritual implications has some physical embodiments. Physical embodiments. The church is not just indivisible, it's physical, it's local, it's real.
Yeah.
You can feel her. Go to a local church and turn to your neighbor and say hello. That is physical. Jesus is King of King of every county and city and state. And if you don't like that idea of having more Jesus, more Christ honoring uh cities and that thinks about Jesus, honors Jesus, respects Jesus, tolerates Jesus more and more outside of a Sunday, outside of your neighborhood in your city. And if that bothers you, you're only a Christian in your head.
Yeah.
You're only a Christian in your head. And that is a private Christianity that does nothing
Yeah.
for a single mother who is addicted to heroin, who is about to give birth in the hospital. Does nothing for that person. What kind of Jesus is that? Right? Like that kind of Jesus does nothing for a soldier who came back from like Iraq and Afghanistan, who's been shot, who has struggles with PTSD or whatever, and that cannot have relationships with his wife and his children anymore because he's shock of war. Like, how do you cancel that? What would Jesus is real for that mother who's addicted to heroin, and Jesus becomes real for that soldier who struggles with PTSD, I think it's called. Oh, you bounced. Your camera turned off, homie. Jesus is real and he's not private. If Jesus, he dropped off, technical difficulties, I get it. He'll come back. If Jesus is only in your head, if your professors are only teaching Jesus is in your head, he's the king of heaven, he's like Jesus ruling over the world. Like, what is this? Like Christendom? What do you want? Jesus to be the king of the United States? Like, we have the United States Constitution. Like, I get that, but Jesus is the king, and gospel changes cultures. Gospel changes societies. And if you're anti-Christian society and you prefer and you're comfortable with the idea of a tranny nationalism, your pastor, your seminary professor, your seminary institution, maybe your denomination is actually being a useful idiot. Here's another red flag. Hopefully Danny comes back. Danny, if you're watching or you're listening, come back on, bro. How do you know if your pastor or seminary buff are useful idiots? Well, this is probably the easiest one. If they only listen to NPR news, and if they voted for Biden, that is actually a red flag, because Biden believes everything. He believes in all these red flags that I just told you about. His party stands for all of these red flags. And there are many Republicans, by the way, that also do too. So I'm going to say that as well, so they won't say, well, true Christians won't vote Republican. Well, I vote for anybody who honors God, who wants more God in our society, who doesn't want a tranny nationalism, who actually teaches Jesus is king of overall every city. I prefer that. I want that. I like that. I'm attracted to that, even though maybe we need to work it out and discuss it better. But it's better than a person who comes up and straight up says, the trannies is actually the next people in line to actually take over the world. and we're not scared. I'm not like people are gonna be like, oh, you're transphobic because you're scared. Like, no, we're not scared. It's the idea of them taking over. If Jesus is king, here's the idea. Here's the reality, okay? Here's the conflict. If Jesus is king of the world, king of kings and lord of lords, like he says and like he is, then there can be no neutral ground. There can't be no neutrality. There, it is that black and white. Either Jesus is king in reality or he's not. What's up, bro? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I
Dude.
cannot see you.
I don't know what happened to my camera.
All right, well, I'll just keep you on here like a phone call. So we're almost done, bro. One of the easiest signs, bro, for a useful idiot is probably one of the most obvious. And a pastor or a seminary professor who only listens to NPR and if they're voting for Biden again. I would say that is definitely an easy sign for somebody to be like, yeah, you're a useful idiot. And I made a disclosure. There's many Republicans actually who are okay with the old dead guy in the White House. Like they're okay with that. Like they're useful idiots too. Those rhinos, those Republicans who are snakes, crony capitalists, I guess. Those guys, there's many of them, and sadly, there's a lot of them, and that's bad too. So I want to caveat that out there at the same time. So, but it's true that pastors who says, oh yeah, Biden, we need another 4 years of Biden, man. He's like the greatest hero, the greatest president. He's the best of all time, the GOAT. He is hands down better than Abraham Lincoln, better than George Washington, better than Obama, better than anybody who's gone before. He is the Caesar of our day, and it's like,
Which
wow.
one?
Wow, bro.
Which Caesar?
Augustus. He's better than Augustus.
Nero? Yeah, man.
Oh. So what do you say to a pastor? Like, what do you think about pastors who are just open like that, bro? That are like, yeah, I'm okay with that. I know there's a pastor in Minnesota, not Minnesota. Was it Minnesota? I think it was John Piper that came out and said, yeah, I can never vote for Trump. Like, I can't get over his tone. He's bad. I'm like, so do you prefer a Biden who wants to kill babies, who hates pastors like you, who hates the church like your church, who
Yeah.
Like, do you prefer that worldview?
It's an oxymoron, man.
Right.
It's an oxymoron. I mean, I'm not calling Piper a moron, but
right.
It's an oxymoron.
Well, he might be a moron in this issue, bro. I'm going to confess. And if I would tell him, I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, don't you understand the implications of what this means for you and your ministry?
Yeah.
Like, I would tell him, bro, you've been in church for 60 years preaching. I love your book, Desiring God, by the way. I have it. And your
Piper
sermon.
Piper was my drug way into Calvinism.
Yeah. He's a gateway drug for many, and I get it. But I'm like, Piper, he's against you. He's against your 60-year legacy. He hates pastors like you, actually. You know what I mean? So, like, I think you might be a useful idiot in this situation, bro. Like, I'd rather you not vote at all. How about you just step away? Just, encourage your flock, what to look for. Give them red flags instead.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, saying statements like that. He made another statement, since we're on it, that said, there was a question that said, if a husband beats up his wife, and if the wife is in an abusive relationship, what should the wife do? And he said, he said she should suck it up and roll with the punches and blah blah blah, something like that.
That's a red flag. That's a bit. we switched topics now. I want to go back to the other one, but like that's that one. If you hear that from your professor in seminary, Bible college, or a pastor, that's a huge red flag. So yeah.
Yes. But it's almost like saying, I'm not going to vote for the person who wants to end abortion. I'm going to vote for the person who actually wants more abortion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say it's a red flag. And if your pastor says, I love NPR, I'll be like, you like love them? Like hands down? Like
You
about
just
to
don't
teach?
listen to them? You love them?
Right. You like actually like man, that's like your number one go-to. Like
Yeah.
I'll be like, that's a red flag for me, bro.
Yeah.
I'll be like, they do live debates from Europe, and I appreciate that actually, where they do like they keep you in the loop of what's going on in the politics of like England and like Amsterdam and Australia. You know what I mean? Which is fascinating because you get to hear other people debate in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'm glad they're actually airing that interview or that debate on the radio. I was like, that's actually pretty cool. But there's a lot of stuff on there that's actually not that great, actually. So which one of these red flags that you definitely want to highlight the most, bro, or any other red flags you think that people should know about, that would prove a red flag that, man, your pastor, your theologian is a crazy liberal? Like, well, what are some other red flags that you want to point out before we close this out?
I mean, let me think, man. Besides abortion, allowing the tranny nationalism take take the stage. There's not a lot. There's a bunch of heresies out there that you should be careful with. Yeah, if your pastor is a woman, she is not a pastor.
Hold on, bro. I got a list of Bible verses that proves women pastors.
You
Look,
got a list.
I got a list that proves women pastors. Ready?
Yeah.
See them? All right, man. Where can people find you, man, to like follow you, hit you up, get in touch?
Yeah. Right now, nowhere. Thank you.
You're off the grid, bro?
Yeah. Right now, nowhere. I only have Facebook, man. I'm a seminary student, full time. At the same time, I work full time. I'm a dad of two, married to a beautiful woman who is a woman.
You better say that she's watching that.
Yeah. Married to a beautiful woman who's a woman.
It's so sad we had to like clarify things nowadays.
Yeah, by birth, you know. And no, yeah.
Married to one wife.
Married to one. Shout out to Edwin. Married to one wife. Pastor E. No, right now only Facebook, man. I think it's Daniel Daniel Ramos dash Asia. And you know this. I'm trying to get back into the podcast avenue. So there's something that I'm working on, and some of you guys are helping me out with it. So pretty soon I'll be out there, and maybe I'll be here again, or find me in the Reform Block.
Reform Block first. Go on YouTube, everybody. Type in the Reform Block, subscribe to it. It's a network of podcasters. We get together and do a block party once a month. So it's coming up. So you better stay tuned for that.
So I'll do this. I'll promise your audience that maybe not in this Reform Block, but in probably the next one or the next one, I'll announce my where you guys can find me, maybe podcast wise or social media wise, and yeah, man, it's been good to be here with you, man. Thank you for allowing me to share in the live.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you just chopping it up, bro. Yeah, for hit me up on Twitter at the Chicano Knox. I'm on Rumble. Check me out on Rumble. Mostly on YouTube, so go ahead and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, stuff like that. So I appreciate everybody. God bless. Grace and peace.
Peace out.